let's so Wyden now turns to a different tact.
Ask one other question, if I might. The report has a brief description of Russian cyber intrusions into state and local electoral boards. It reads, and I quote, DHS assesses that the types of systems we observed Russian actors targeting or compromising are not involved in vote tallying. My question to you, and I think I'd like to have you involved in this too, Director Clapper. Director Comey, Director Clapper, what systems, in your view, were compromised by the Russians, and what was the nature and extent of those compromises?
Yeah. There were intrusions and attempted intrusions at state-level voter registration databases. That is, not containing the voting mechanism, but who's registered to vote and the address and the particulars of that sort. What the purpose was of those intrusions is not clear to us at this point, and we saw no activity on Election Day that reflected that anyone had messed with those voter registration databases. But there's no doubt that the Russians attacked, intruded, and took data from some of those systems.
Director Clapper?
I think that's the response. I don't have anything to add to that.
And I hope you will also tell us in the days ahead, Director Comey, more about the nature of those systems, because it is very clear, given what you found and reported in the declassified version, that we're going to be dealing with these issues coming up. And I think we need to know more specifics. We can do it in a classified session about the nature of those systems. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, this second part here is interesting with these data files, because be clear, all they're claiming is that the Russians hacked into the data, the files of the voters, and what you can get from those, and I think those are publicly available or accessible, I believe. And it's unclear when it happened. So you wouldn't necessarily know if some of these people are looking for absentee ballots or what. Or I don't know if the implication is by Wyden as to whether or not there's information in there that is not accessible to campaigns, that this was information doesn't affect the voting, but it could be data that maybe could be used by a campaign. Right? I mean, we do know that, according to reporting, that the Trump campaign had this sort of amazing bet that they made about finding voters at the last minute in these three swing states, isolating which voters were the best voters for them to go and talk to. We also know that the Clinton campaign was off by about 20% on their get out the vote days in these same states. At least in Michigan and Pennsylvania, we have documented reports about it. This is complete conjecture on my part as to why a third party not associated with the, look, maybe it's possible that the FBI is making up a story that the Russians accessed the data files. That seems like a weird story to make up, but maybe it's some plan to demonize Russia. It's a weird one. It's not a terribly sexy one. But the only people that would have value, that information would have value to, would be a campaign. The fact that Wyden asks one question about contacts between Russians and one campaign's aides, and then follows up with this question about the voter data, I don't think that's a coincidence.
No.
I mean, maybe it is, but I don't think it is. Very fascinating stuff. And just one last thing, because then I want to go to Jeff Sessions. What's going to be interesting is now that it's clear that John McCain was muling some of this Donald Trump stuff, okay, to the FBI, like literally sending an aide to go get it apparently from Britain and giving it to the FBI. It's going to be interesting to see where he lands in all this. I mean, someone said to me yesterday, like, maybe John McCain is going to, make amends for how he was in the 2008 election, and he's going to revert back to the John McCain of old. And I was like, no. If he reverts back, it's going to be John McCain reverting back to what's best for John McCain.
Well,
and feeling like he's the guy. Somehow, there's no doubt in my mind that John McCain is going to try and put himself in the middle of whatever anything exists.
well, and also John McCain of always is a guy who's basically driven by personal resentment and revenge. So that actually does bode well for him taking this seriously.
Yep.
Donald Trump embarrassed him. Donald Trump was an asshole to him. And he's an opportunity to humiliate Donald Trump. I mean, that is literally the entirety of at least since I've been aware of him. That's
Yep.
what John McCain does. So he probably will be pretty on this, but not because it's the John McCain of some imagined integrity that people are attached to.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.